I started the journey a few years back because when I was working as a data scientist at Teradata, working mainly on deep learning, we were helping our customers to solve problems with AI in like POCs and pilots and stuff like that. And we proved over and over again it's successful. However, when I check back with them after a while, typically these initiatives end up being slowed down, stuck, or even killed. So I spent the last few years trying to find an answer to this question, like what makes these AI transformations fail. And I found 3 reasons. I call them the hidden depths. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So my name is Amgad Muhammad. And I think in the next 40 minutes, we will go through those reasons one by one, explain them, and hopefully you'll learn some strategies to avoid them. Cool. So reason number 1, the governance. So in the last 5 years, AI incidents has increased 51x. In 2020, it was around 15 incidents. In 2024, 700 plus. So why this is concerning? Of course, the rapid increase of incident is concerning, obviously, but there's something else. And I think this is something that we as human beings didn't experience before. It's the nature of technology itself. You guys remember this AlphaGo? Yeah? Okay. So why this one is specifically interesting? Because DeepMind trained an algorithm or an AI that can actually play Go and beat professional Go players. And it was never meant to be or expected to be happening soon, but it did. And what's exciting about it is that the way they trained it. So they started with human matches. So it learned basic strategies. And then the algorithm started playing against itself. So playing again, and reached the point where actually they reached a very advanced strategy that surpasses the human level, right? And it's too old, 2015. It's like 9 years ago. This is what we were able to do 9 years ago. And then we look at the timeline, advancement after advancement after advancement, of course, until we have the ChatGPT family, which is a little bit scary right now. It does everything. So it does speech, it does text, it does image, it does everything. So basically, it's quite concerning. And when you look at the regulations at the bottom, you see that it took us around since 2015 to 2024, 9 years to have some sort of an action, right? So what would be our next move? So should we maybe wait for regulations to have some laws, enforce them, and hopefully companies will comply, and then we will have maybe a safer adoption for AI? And I would argue no, that's not a good way to do it. Why? Familiar with Cambridge Analytica? Yeah? Nice. So these guys took the data for 87 million users without their consent. They built psychological profiles on these guys and used it to political targeted campaigns. So they use it to push political campaigns to specific people and without any kind of consent. That's a data incident, right? And again, it's not the only one. So it happened over and over again. So Facebook did a similar thing. They used the news feed for the users to manipulate it to test how it will alter their moods. You have the Russian entities interfered with the US election in 2016, 2018 Cambridge Analytica, and in the 2021 US actually caught spying on leaders, journalists, and activists. And although GDPR was enforced in 2018 to try to protect our privacy, that's just one right that we have, having privacy. It didn't really improve too much. So in 2022, Europe was actually the worst hit continent when it comes to data breaches. So 1 in every 5 European internet user was involved in a data breach in 2022, and that's 4 times the global average. So actually, yeah, GDPR did something, but the problem still exists. So my advice would be that in order to avoid accumulating this AI governance debt, we need to have a proactive approach to responsible AI. But as I mentioned, it's kind of an uncharted territory. It's something that we haven't dealt with before. So what should we do? And I want to share with you a maturity model that has 9 dimensions, where basically it will give you a map of what are the points that you can be standing on, what are the roads to take, and hopefully what are the target states that you can all reach. So it has 3 levels. The first one, we need to work on organization and focus on first culture and leadership. So we need to make sure that our leaders in the organization deal with it in serious way. So formal commitment with budgets, resources, incentives, and so on. The right policies and compliance processes. So maybe your organization doesn't have a responsible AI policy, or they are in the making, or maybe it's fragmented across different business units. Or you have a very comprehensive, complete RAI policy that actually has enough details so that you can come up with compliance processes to enforce these policies. So that's kind of a spectrum. And finally, because here we are in a tech event, the tooling. So you might have no RAI policies at all, tooling at all, or you might strive to build more customizable, advanced, extensible, responsible AI tooling for your teams. So that's the organization. Then you move to the team. You can do whatever is needed in the organization level, but when it comes to people, the team, they might not do something with it or anything with it. So you need to work on the team valuing responsible AI. So does they look at it from a tax perspective that they have to pay in order to do their job? Or on the other end of spectrum, they see it as very, very important and they are actually advocating for it in the organization. Then the timing on enforcing responsible AI in the process. So sometimes when we work on an AI solution, we push the safety and the responsibility till the end. But actually, on the other end of spectrum, you need to do this in every step of the solution development, from the beginning to the middle and the end. And the final one is about the purpose of AI. So again, we are technologists, so we look at it from a technological perspective. We want to build the next shiny thing. But on the other end of the spectrum, we have to think about people and have a people-centric perspective instead. So how can this technology help and how can it hurt, right? So that's the team part. And then practices, accountability. So when something bad happens, do you know why, who, when was involved? Or is it spread across different teams and everybody's saying it was working on my laptop, so I don't know what happened? And then transparency, it's a part of explaining everything about the AI you're using internally and externally. So what kind of data you used, how you trained the model, what are the limitations, what are the risks, and so on. You communicate that to your internal employees, but also you can communicate that externally. So IBM has an AI fact sheet where they do some communication with the press about the AI that you're using. And finally, we're doing all that to be in control of risks. So we want to be able to identify, mitigate, measure, and monitor. So yeah, typically what I see is that something bad happens, so people react, right? But instead of doing that, we need to be proactive when it comes to risk management, and we have to have a way to not just do it at the beginning, but monitor it after we put it in production, and keep monitoring it and step in just in case something will happen, not just wait until something bad happens. So that's like a map where you should be, where you could be now, and you do kind of a maturity assessment for the organization to know where are you in every one of those dimensions. The key takeaways here: cultivate AI risk. So you cannot find something if you don't know what you're looking for. So you need to know what's out there. Evaluate the purpose, move from technology-centric to people-centric, and invest, because it's here to stay and it will thrive. It will be more advanced, so we should also thrive with it, right? Okay, the second reason, change management. You recognize this, guys? So I think Damien touched upon this when he talked about how people are sometimes not very well cooperative. And I think the reason why this is the case, because if you have a map and you want to move from one place to the other, you will do a change. And this change requires people, right? If I'm giving an example, a car that has to be point A to point B, this car has an engine, and the engine is people. And what I typically see in organization is that they focus so much on the quick wins, and they don't focus as much on the big picture or the big why. They don't start with it. I like this guy. And I always use this quote with the team when we spend so much time trying to find a problem, that why we're working on a problem, because he said he who has a why can bear anyhow. So basically, if people understand why they are doing what they are doing, they will take the extra steps. They will get out their comfort zones. They will actually face uncertainty and try to beat it, and so on. So the main message is try to find a balance between achieving quick wins and showing results fast, but also at the same time being strategic and visionary on your actions. And I will share with you 3 key steps on the first part. So being strategic and visionary. And after that, we will talk about how we can balance this with quick wins. So the first one is creating a sense of urgency. So if you have a car and you know where you're going, and people don't think it as an urgent matter, you will stay put, right? But you have to create a sense of urgency, telling them that we have to act now. And that's the first tip. The second one, don't do it alone. Try to find a group of people that share the same vision with you, strong people that can actually make action, that can actually influence the organization. If you have a weak group of people, you will not move anywhere. You have to have those kind of strong coalitions of people, leaders around you. And finally, the step of creating the vision and the strategy. And I want to spend some time here. I think the strong why is an AI strategy that you can build with the business outcomes in the heart of it, right? So I'm going to share with you a framework that I use, try to link between the business outcomes that my organization cares for and what are we doing from an AI initiative perspective to actually meet those outcomes. So let's take an example. First, you need to focus on mission critical priority. And for example, we want to enhance the customer satisfaction. Step 2, that's the objective. Step 2, we suggest the outcomes, which is the key results. And if we hit 15% increase in customer satisfaction, 20% increase in response time, then we have made it. Identify the highest level stakeholder. That could be chief customer officer, head of customer support, whoever it is. Identify this person and start working with them on identifying the change and maybe the business processes that will lead to increasing the satisfaction. So in this case, we found that working on a manual processes can be optimized. So we need to move to an AI assisted processes and automated ones instead. And of course, business focused KPIs, because we are business centric. So in this case, we can choose issue resolution rate, customer satisfaction scores, and average response time, and so on. And that's where you start identifying the AI opportunities that you need to work on, the data assets that are needed as well. So in this case, a good idea would be, let's start by implementing a chatbot to help our customer service agents. And then maybe we can use AI for sentiment analysis to prioritize the customer complaints and work on the most important ones first. And that's where you use the map that we talked about in the governance to assess where are you standing and what are the gaps you need to take in order to reach and unlock these kind of initiatives. So in this case, we mapped it to, we need to work on the right policies, we need to work on tooling, we need to work on risk and accountability, and the gaps that we need to prioritize are advanced tooling, improving our data security policies, and we do some staff training. Okay. And you keep repeating this. You did this for one mission critical priority, you keep repeating this for the others, right? You do it separately, and you will end up with a bucket filled of gaps and capabilities that you need to build and so on. And this is where you start seeking for quick wins. That's a timer going down. So you end up with a list of things that you can improve, dimensions that you can tackle from the maturity model. I would advise you to prioritize them based on impact and the cost of delay. So impact can be how many AI initiatives will be unlocked if I made progress in this dimension. Cost of delay is, if I delayed this, how much cost I will be paying, right? And then you end up with a matrix like this. Maybe you have something that is high impact, but the cost of delay is so low, so that could be a strategic reserve, maybe for later. Or you have something like a very low impact, but a very high cost of delay, which is the high risk, like being compliant to a regulation or something like that. But I advise you to focus on this square. So mid, high impact, and mid, high cost of delay. These are the places where you should be looking for the next quick win. So let's go back to the model that I talked about, and in this case, we will take the tooling example. So we talked about we need to improve our tooling. We can be integrating AI chatbots in the process, for example, or we can building AI for sentiment analysis. You did the mapping, you are here, so I don't have tools. That's my current state. If I take one step forward and have some access to right tools, I will be unlocking the AI chatbot, and it's an intermediate state, so that's a quick win. But actually, this quick win was strategic because that's where you want to be, is standardized, customizable, extensible tools. And basically, if you have that, you will unlock more advanced AI initiatives. So it was actually a strategic move that yielded results pretty much fast. So the key takeaways is people are the heart of change. Please start with why, focus on it. And finally, your quick wins can be a strategic move as well. The last reason is about technology. Generally, if you cannot scale AI, you will not be able to harvest the full potential. We need to develop AI, we need to move it from the status of POCs, pilots, to fully production and fully scaling. But we don't want to do this really slowly. We want to do it more frequently, much faster, much cheaper. And when you look at the numbers, it's a little bit, it tells you a different story. So 49% of the AI solutions end up in production, which means that more than 50% of the AI solution doesn't go there. So it's a huge waste of resources, which means it's very costly. And it takes about average 8.2 months to push a single model into production. This is 2024 numbers, by the way. So what can be the solution? We can look back to a similar problem we faced like 600 years ago, which is about books. How do we copy books? And before press printing, it was a manual process. So you go to someone, they start writing the book, copying it manually. Maybe they will get out 2-3 pages per day. So books ended up very expensive. Production of books ended up very slow, and it was concentrated in a very few people who has the money to afford that. Until this guy came, Johannes Gutenberg. He created a standardized, that's the key word, mechanical printing press. And with his invention, I think they moved from 2-3 pages per day to 250 pages per hour. So that's a huge improvement. And he has a very nice quote. So give me a 26 lit soldiers and I will conquer the world. He meant here the 26 character of alphabet. And I think he was saying that knowledge is power. And we are in a similar situation. We need to scale AI because AI is power, right? So where do we start standardizing if the standardization is a solution? We have twin cycles of AI. The first cycle is about AI development. You start with ideation, collect, transform data, do the model development and validation. I will not stay too much here. And then they have the second cycle, which is the operation. You deploy, you integrate with the business process, you do the monitoring. It's not working as expected, it's drifting, you do the maintenance, and finally you want to replace it with a completely different model, so you do the retirement, and on again. But if these are the activities that we have in the cycles, are they all can be standardized, or should we find some standardization there, some standardization there, and leave everything else? So I put all the activities down there. So that's the AI development, that's the AI operation. And then you have a spectrum of standardization versus complete autonomy. And what we found is this. There are tasks and activities that doesn't require too much innovation, but requires control and consistency. And that's where you want to offer your standardization. And the more you move towards business, and the more you want to move the need for business context and innovation for problem solving, you want to give complete autonomy. And then once you move to the AI operation again we're back to the very task that you can standardize and control. It's a very boring task, by the way, the part of the AI operation. Okay, so how did we do it? The AI operating model, I thought that someone asked about this. So again, we split it into two different, the cycles, the development and the operation. And we offered a platform that we called it a data analytics platform. And basically we followed the hub and spoke, but you can see that the hub is small, but the spokes are big because it was built centrally, but operated in the business units, which means that we give them the infrastructure and they put the functional component on top of it. That's the part where they have enough autonomy. And once they did that, they can actually contribute it back to the central team so it becomes available to everybody else. It's like giving them the house and it's up to you to put the layout inside. And for the DIP, Data Intelligence Platform, that's for the AI operation. It's the same model, but flipped. So in the hub, it's quite big, and the spokes are quite thin. And why? Because, again, the tasks are quite boring. They can be standardized. So there is no much need for autonomy here. So we built it centrally, and we operate it centrally, which means that the central team responsible for keeping the model alive, and the business unit teams is responsible to make the model accurate or functioning. And that's basically the conclusion for the three reasons. For the failures. You need to create a proactive plan. You need to find the balance between the quick wins and being strategic. And finally, standardization versus autonomy. Too much standardization will hinder innovation. Too much autonomy will create technical debt that you will eventually have to pay. That's it. Thank you.